So, welcome back guys to another video, and I thought for this video I'd do something a little different. Now, I've done YouTube shoutouts in the past, and I really enjoy helping other people find other channels that are really enjoyable, that I really think deserve more recognition. But I thought I would touch base on something else, another little hobby of mine, something I really enjoy, and that is podcasts. Now, if you guys watch my channel, you guys probably know that I also do a audio podcast, Excess Gaming Podcast, with my friend James Gruesome, and we've gotten over 70 plus episodes and going on for almost 4 years. I mean, it's insane how long I've been doing this, and I think I should go back to the Wayback Machine of what got me into podcasting and why do I enjoy it. Now, since I was a little kid, my father was always in the radio. He was a disc jockey for numerous country stations in my town, classic rock stations. He's worked with the news stations, doing the news, doing like top 40. One of his hobbies was NASCAR racing, so he actually had his own podcast on racing as well. And I guess some of that kind of rubbed off on me, because I've, over the years have become having a bigger appreciation and love for talk radio. So with that being said, and watching YouTube videos and getting introduced to the gaming community, I started finding out that there was actually gaming podcasts on video games as well. And the first one I listened to was All Gen Gamers podcast, and I think that was a podcast a lot of people started with at first. And it meant a lot to me because it was a lot of YouTubers I originally watched, like Happy Console Gamer, Pete Dorr, Gamester81, Jason Heine. That first little group right there. I started watching them. They always had guests from various YouTube channels, so I was always introduced to brand new channels and just this passion for gaming. And I was like, man, this is really cool. And I remember they were having like 100th episode, like live stream. And it was like a 4-hour podcast. It was long, but it was so much fun because it was like all of us were on Twitch. We were having such a great time conversating and listening to stories and just listening to what's going on in gaming. It was a lot of fun. And at that time I was going through like a really bad breakup, and I was like, man, I need to do something to get my mind off of this stuff, And I was like, I'm going to try a podcast. Why not? I'll try a podcast. And what turned out to be just a curious summer project turned into a 4-year project. And I'm still enjoying it. So that's how it all started with gaming podcast. And of course, I listen to others. I mean, it's kind of weird. I have days where I listen to nothing but podcasts. I get some beers, or I fix a pot of tea or some coffee, and I just sit in my room and kind of relax and just listen to podcasting. It's almost like some of it's kind of like therapeutic for me. Like, I love listening to it. Sometimes I listen to it before I go to sleep. Sometimes it helps me sleep at night, listening to podcasts. And what I wanted to do is talk about some podcasts that I listen to that I really enjoy, and I have a very cool project to also announce at the end of this video as well that I've been working on. But the first podcast I want to talk about is Epic Restart. Now, Epic Restarts went through different name changes. They started out as Gaming Horizon, then they went to Social Link Podcast, and now they're Epic Restart, and that's with Alex from Backlog Battle from Twitch, and Anthony from Magus X1 on YouTube. And what I like about this podcast is, when you have two hosts, they always have an agreement. They always have something they enjoy talking about together, and Alex and Anthony had that, but at the same time, they have different opinions. And I think that's a really cool thing. I mean, it's not like they hate each other or anything, but, Anthony will mention a game, and, Alex will say something about it, and vice versa. They have their own opinions, and it makes great chemistry, and it makes it more organic, in my opinion. And that's one of the reasons why I love listening to that podcast. And another one I want to talk about also was the CXG podcast with Corn Muffin and Games of War. Now, Corn Muffin is an American who lives in Japan, so he's into that culture, and it's nice hearing someone who lives in the culture, that breathes the culture, that loves to talk about the Japanese culture and Japanese games and, games of war, JRPGs and niche tiles is kind of like his thing. So it makes a very interesting podcast because they talk about some stuff that I don't know about, some stuff that I do know about. I really agree with their views, and it's just a really good podcast. They don't put out enough episodes. I want them to come out with more. I want to listen to more of their stuff. And also, my good friends, the Retro Junkies, I started listening to their podcast around the same time I started Excess Gaming, and Rob and Landon are really cool guys. First off, if you're a big nostalgic fan like I am, like if you love nostalgia, this is a great podcast to listen to because they talk about retro games, but they'll also talk about, everything 80s. They even had an episode where they were talking about like Happy Meals and stuff like that. I mean, and Ninja Turtles. I mean, it's really, really cool stuff. I really enjoy it, and just the fact that these guys are just as humble as they are nostalgic, I'm a big fan of them. The Retro Junkies are absolutely awesome. And let's see, trying to think of some more because I listen to a lot of different podcasts. The Rad Rascals podcast, Ben and Francis. I love their show because to me this is like the more of the nitty gritty gaming podcast to listen to, because these guys, they talk about all sorts of things from beer to games to, they have like an adult sense of humor. So, they might talk about some things that some people may see as very crass, but to me it's very tasteful, and it's an adult podcast. That's what I really enjoy about it. And again, both of them, they just like Alex and Anthony, they don't have the same point of view on certain things, so I think it makes a great chemistry. They don't just agree with each other. I like the fact that they kind of disagree on certain things, so it adds a little bit more of a conversation and overall in a more enjoyable show. So yeah, that's some of the podcasts I really love listening to, guys. I will leave a link below for you guys to check them out and listen to them for yourselves, and the best way to listen to them. And I do have another podcast project on the way. I mean, you guys know I do Excess Gaming. I've been working on a paranormal podcast called the Other Realm Podcast. I will leave a link below on that. I've had like 2 episodes so far of that. I've worked with I Got Gameplay with Michael Burhan. I've done Entertainment Talk Nation with Rob Rosado and Olivia. And that show's kind of like on a little temporary hiatus, but I will be coming back, and that show will be coming back very soon. It's, it's all up to Rob. Rob's been going through some stuff, but the next project that I've been working on, it's weird because everything kind of goes full circle, because I mentioned All Gen Gamers, and, the Happy Console Gamer, that's a channel that really inspired me to make YouTube videos. All Gen Gamers really inspired me to make podcasts, and here I am helping out with the Lords of Thunder podcast, a brand new podcast with Johnny Millennium and Alphaomegasin on the new Final Bosses website. It's cool. I really, really like it. I like the fact that, here I am, who got introduced to this hobby by these guys, and here I am helping them out, and I've been having such a blast helping these guys out, and they've been having a great podcast covering everything from retro games to anime to Dungeons and Dragons. The list goes on. I don't want to mention too much because there's lots of surprises in the future, and it's a very young but seasoned podcast, and I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy it. But anyway, guys, what are some of your favorite podcasts to listen to? I'm always up the ears. I always want to listen to what's going on, and if you have a podcast, be sure to let me know about it as well. I'd love to hear your podcast. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming. Can't get enough of Excess Gaming Podcast? Be sure to check out the audio podcast on podomag.com, or you can also subscribe to us on iTunes. Also, if you have a YouTube channel or podcast you like to share, be sure to check out the Excess Gaming Podcast Facebook group page and join our community. All the links are below, and as always, guys, thank you so much for all your support.